What's up, everyone? So I'm back with the Low Key Suck series. Now, for those of you who do not know, I started this series off by pretty much speaking about all the NF types. So the ENFJ, INFJ, ENFP, INFP. This was back when I was still using my iPhone to record videos and everything. Now I use an iPad Pro. And it was originally just intended to be a funny, constructive criticism type of video for all of the NF types, something that you can laugh at, but be like, oh wow, but that's really me. Not to get too hurt about it or whatever. And then, people start saying like, oh, these are great. Like, I want to hear more about, like all the other types. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I did the SP types as well. And now I've been anticipating doing the SJs and the NT types. People have been bugging me for months, literally months, waiting on this NT video. And I'm like a perfectionist. So I really just wanted to make sure that I set enough time to, actually record the video, edit it well, say whatever I gotta say, especially for the NTs because y'all are so critical. And I didn't want to, hurt anybody's feelings because even though y'all are thinkers, like I've seen that a lot of y'all can become very sensitive and then in conclusion become very insensitive. So some disclaimers. This is meant to be stuff that's truthful but humorous. It's constructive criticism. So I'm pretty much aiming for you guys to be like, oh wow, that is so true about me. But now that I'm aware of this, I'm gonna try and work on it. And pretty much that's how this ball is gonna roll. So don't get too hurt about the things that I say. If you don't resonate with it, then okay. But be honest with yourself. If you do, laugh at it, have fun, and then now that you're mindful of it, try and work on that behavior pretty much. And I also want to say two more last things. First thing I want to say is I'm gonna, after this series, I'm going to be making all of these videos over again except saying high key rocks. So I'm going to be saying all the positive attributes of every single type. So if I like really bash your type hard or whatever, which I tried to do even with my own type back in the video, and I have more to add to that list now if I could go back. Just know that as much as I have bad things to say about you guys, I also have very good things to say about you guys. I'm an ENFJ, so I tend to see the positives in just about everyone, even if there's not much there. So without further ado, the second thing that I just wanted to say lastly, and then we're going to get this ball rolling, is that I love NTs. I love all types. So even though I'm not going to say many people's names unless I feel like, like they won't be that sensitive to it. But if you feel hurt or whatever, just know that I'm not bashing you. I am not bashing a certain type. I have people of every type that I absolutely love and admire and everything. Just like I have people of certain types that I don't really prefer. But, it has to do more with the individual than with the type. So, yeah, without further ado, let's go. The ENTJ. This is probably the most intimidating of all the NT types, and we're starting with them first because they probably only have the time to watch just about the first part of this video, and then they have to go and take over a business or something. They have this intimidating confidence behind them. It's kind of similar to an ESTP's confidence, only it's more in your face. Like the ESTP has like the confidence that's like, well, I know that I'm right, or I know that I can do it. But the ENTJ is kind of like, I know that I'm right, I know that I can do it. I'm gonna show you that I know that I'm right and that I can do it, and I'm gonna like put it in your face. I'm just gonna keep on shoving that, and it's like, whoa, take it easy, man. When you get into a debate with these people, it's not a debate. It's not a discussion. It's not a debate. It's more of like they're pulverizing you into the ground with facts or what they believe to be facts. And they just keep on asserting that TE. And I like to also title them as pretty much the type that's most prone to confirmation bias. So when I say confirmation bias, I'm talking about how their NI and especially their FI, although it's inferior, it still plays a big part in the ENTJ. Do not be confused. everything pretty much roots from their feelings. And that's actually why TE is such a strong and driven function, because internally their feelings are like, yeah, go, 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 and telling them pretty much what to do, even if they're not aware of it. It's in their subconscious. So if their FI and their NI feel like something is, something is the way that it is. For example, if they feel like somebody is a bad person, or that somebody's out to get them, or they want, like, whatever the case may be, if they're suspicious of something, their NI and FI will be like the source of that, and then their SE and TE will go ahead and confirm that bias. So it's pretty much like them saying, I'm right, or I will make myself right. And this comes into their debates as well. I was debating with Jamila's mother one time, who's an ENTJ, and man, never again. Because pretty much they're not necessarily trying to win the debate by facts and discussion and understanding your perspective, which is ironic because they have NI or whatever. But usually, at least we know with the type 8 ENTJs for sure, they're trying to just completely like flatten you with as much information that they can possibly slam you with, logical information at that case. And if they believe something to be true, they will put everything down that they can possibly put down. So one example of this could also be Chief Masterson from that old ABC Family show Twisted. When he believed that Danny was the suspect, that Danny was the killer, then he pretty much did anything in his power to prove that Danny was the suspect, that Danny was the killer. And then this caused a whole bunch of like self-fulfilling prophecies, like, see, I knew that you were this, or I knew that you were that. And it's like, well, yes, maybe, but also you kind of like possibly manipulated and altered things to happen in that way, because in your mind you already made up that this is what the situation was. So you were not going to change from that in any possible way, if you understand what I mean. And I've seen a lot of ENTJs fall victim to this, and they say, oh yeah, I'm not I'm not in tune with my feelings or whatever, which to an extent is true, but their feelings definitely play a big part in it, because it's because of your subjective view on certain things. You think that you're making logical decisions, or that you're bringing logical rationality to how you're viewing the world and how you're, doing whatever. But in actuality, you're going off of your feelings. And I know that you hate to hear that, but it's just true. So the funny thing is that ENTJs are all big and bad, but then at the same time, they're very paranoid. These are the types that'll pretty much always think that somebody is out to get them. And it kind of reminds me of the ESFP in a way, which makes sense because they have the same extroverted functions and the same introverted functions. So the ESFP and the ENTJ are both extroverting TE and SE, but their internal world is consisted of NI and FI. So the ENTJ, when they always feel like, somebody's out to get me, somebody's out to try and like make me look stupid, or somebody's out to try and like steal my job. It's not about to happen. And it's like, wait, what? No, nobody's coming after you. They make things a challenge pretty much when nobody's worried about you. Nobody's trying to like like make this a challenge in any way, and they can do this whether unintentionally or intentionally. Oftentimes it is unintentionally, because they're not aware of their feelings enough to know how much their feelings are influencing them. So I guess like my constructive criticism for that is really to get in tune with your NI, so that you stop using it in such an unhealthy way, and instead you use it in a way so that you can like look at the bigger picture, see what's like actually like possibly happening. Get in tune with that SE as well, to like see the world for what it is rather than just continue to jump into action. And then as you get into that NI, then your SE will not only be getting things because your SE has to feed your NI, but your FI will also be getting fed too, and you'll become more aware of what your FI is doing and how it's influencing your daily decisions. ENTJs can also come off as jerks. Shoot, like I said, they're the most like intimidating type probably, especially out of the NTs. And it's like, man, like, can you guys relax that TE? I know it's your dominant function, but a lot of times they don't even know how to say please and thank you. They're just like, do this or do that. Everything that they say has to have some type of like aggression behind it. And it's like, relax, take it easy. There's such thing called manners. I know that you're not an FE user, but at least learn some type of social norm so that you can, handle things professionally and effectively. Learn about tone. The way that you say certain things may not be offensive to, your other ENTJ friends or whatever, but it's offensive to other types. If somebody calls you out for it, don't just be like, wow, you're being so sensitive or whatever. No, just be like, okay, understand where that person is coming from and try and learn how to speak their language. Not everybody speaks your language, not everybody speaks their language, but the point of MBTI is to learn these different languages so that we can better understand one another and live in harmony. I just made all of the ENTJs want to cut this video off now. Moving on to the next. ENTJs hate incompetence. If you do not understand how a thing should be done, do not let the ENTJ know that. Because chances are the ENTJ will look at you and pretty much make you feel even worse than you did before. Because since they seem to pick up on things so quickly, the TENISE, all of that just combining together to make them be like, well, duh, this is the most clear and evident answer, pretty much, then they can't seem to grasp when other people are a little bit slower than they are on grasping certain things, and they don't have the patience to sit there and try and teach you majority of the time. Now, like I said, if you are a healthy ENTJ, you may not relate to everything or most things that I just stated, praise God. But if you do identify with a lot of these things, please try and fix that. The INTJ. The nickname that I gave the INTJ is the woke sleepwalkers. The reason why I gave them this nickname is because they lead with an I. So they are very into, the pattern of life, understanding the meaning, the symbolism, getting into other people's perspective, future pacing, and, predicting the future, all of that, seeing what's underneath, or behind the curtain, whatever the case may be. But one negative or consequence of leading with NI is that you have SE, extroverted sensing, as an inferior function. And that means that your view of the external world, like what is actually real, is very weak. So oftentimes you'll run into the INTJs who will see themselves as superior minded, very superstitious and woke. I see things that you don't. I tend to think of people like Huey Freeman from the Boondocks, and I also tend to think of Reggie from Dear White People. They always just were like, they felt like, they were like not part of society, or they were so misunderstood because they saw so many things that was going on in the world, and they understood certain things or whatever that seemed obvious to them but not obvious to other people. But then the thing is, although a lot of times they're right, a lot of times they're wrong. It's like, dude, no, you're thinking far too deep into this. How about you get a good understanding of how reality actually is first, and then if you want to start talking about how woke you are, well, extract from what you see in reality, the explicit reality that's untouched or whatever, before you start throwing in your FI subjectivity into it to try and pretty much say like, oh, this is actually, what's going on, but y'all don't see that. I see that though because my third eye is open. What are you talking about? Third eye. I've also found INTJ to be very judgmental, yet also very accepting, kind of like the INFP. And this is due to their FI, their tertiary FI. So because the INTJ has tertiary FI, pretty much they have an inner ISFP living in them, which makes them want to be very self-expressive and individualistic, very visionary type of people. But because their FI is tertiary, then that means that they have TE as an auxiliary function, and their FI pretty much being held in this spot is kind of like the ISTJ. If you do not have values that match up with theirs, they're judging you for it. Like, wow, how could you even think of doing such a thing? I know so many INTJs who pretty much are like, oh yeah, I very heavily believe that everyone should like live their own life, have their own values, live, let live. But then in their mind, they're judging you if whatever you're doing, your behavior goes against their values. And so if you know an INTJ, or if you are an INTJ, and you have these values that are set or whatever, try and understand that not everybody has the same values as you do, and that's okay. It's all right to have different values from other people. That's what makes us different. And continue to allow people to express their individuality as you continue to do the same. But you don't have to be so judgmental to the point where if somebody's like living and behaving in a way that's different to you, then all of a sudden you now have to think less of them in a certain type of fashion. INTJs tend to be very straight-faced as well. They don't really have much fluctuation in their voice. Is it fluctuation or inflection? I think it's probably even both. But they don't really tend to put much energy into their voice. So this is also where their inner ISFP comes out, because ISFPs also tend to be this way, where it's just very stoic. They just have a type of demeanor to them oftentimes, because their FI is tertiary, and so FI is introverted feeling, is pretty much keeping their feeling like within. Then they also lead with an introverted function, so their extroverted functions don't really like cause them to like express themselves that much in that sense. Like the ISFP being more in tune with their feelings, and also having SE as an auxiliary function allows them to like at least somehow be a little bit more expressive. But with the INTJ, their auxiliary function is TE, which is purely logical. So in doing that, they don't even really have a way of like showing like that warmth and that kindness and their feelings, unless if they become like very passionate about something and their feelings are indeed warm and loving and compassionate in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, they tend to be very stoic, and once again I think of Huey Freeman. He's very to himself, doesn't talk much, always in his mind. Same with Reggie. He laughs. INTJs laugh. I know an INTJ, Paris. She's awesome. Hopefully I'll be able to interview her for the NTs video, the INTJ video. But she definitely laughs, and she definitely has a sense of humor. They usually do have great sense of humor to them, but it's just they love to keep their straight face. I also think of Ron Swanson, who just always looks mad. He just always looks like he's ready to go. He's always ready to just... And so, yeah, very stoic people. They need to relax. And lastly, INTJs tend to be loners. Goodness, they don't really have many friends, mainly because a lot of them deal with arrogancy, so they really legitimate think, a lot of them, not all of them, think that they are better than other people. The good thing is, because of their individuality, they have the type of mindset where it's like, now if you want to go ahead and live an average, mundane life, I can understand how, that's something for society. We need people like janitors and other mundane type of tasks or whatever in the world to keep society going. But I, an intellectual, I am a mastermind. I am a strategist. And so therefore, being so superior minded, I do not want to even allow myself to succumb to these low type of tasks and employment type of jobs or whatever. And that's kind of how a lot of them think. They think that they're so high-minded that they are like to do anything that is on the same level as other people is beneath them and rather insulting to their intelligence. The ENTP. I have nicknamed this type the intellectual bigots. Now, the first thing that you should probably know about this type is that they are extremely talkative. Now, this doesn't go with all of them. Like, for example, I know quite a few ENTPs who don't really speak that much and could even somehow pass for introverts. That's because they've now resonated a lot with their introverted function. But even a lot of ones who have resonated with their introverted function of TI, their auxiliary function, they still a lot of times tend to just ride off of that NE and that FE. Like, all these ideas and all these type of, whatever things that just come to mind. They get so excited about it, like, ooh, blah, 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 and it's like, oh my goodness, can you stop? Be quiet. I don't understand. And because they lead with NE and their FE is tertiary, a lot of times they don't even understand the concept of allowing people to actually converse with you. Instead, they'll just go on this whole tangent and keep on rambling about all these spontaneous, sporadic NE ideas. And before you know it, like 45 minutes has passed and you have not even got but 3 words in, and they don't even notice that you haven't been speaking. So my advice for y'all ENTPs that are pretty much talkative, be quiet. Allow other people to speak sometimes. Hear them out. Hear out their logic. And then, make this a conversation, not a ramble, not a dialogue or a monologue. Monologue is the word I'm looking for. Yeah. I've also noticed that many ENTP tend to be manipulative. This is because having NE, TI, and FE in the same function stack, not good, especially in that order. If you look at the fox from Zootopia, he was extremely manipulative. He had this very snide look, this very snide and sly look, actually. And he was just so slick. He was able to bring a type of confidence, and they always have this smirk. Like, that's what I've noticed. Like, majority I don't understand how, but they always have this type of smirk to them, like, and it just makes you like nervous, like, wait, what are you about to do? They just bring a certain type of confidence to the table, and they are smart, they are very intelligent, but man, like I said, they can talk. And if you don't get that in check, then you pretty much won't be able to see just how intelligent they are. And it is their talking that allows them to be oftentimes so manipulative, because they can charm you. They can use a whole bunch of logic, especially when their logic is not developed. They haven't really resonated with that auxiliary function. Then next thing you know, like, their logic can actually be very weak and very dumb sounding, because their NE is just riding so much. It's like, wait, that doesn't even make sense. What are you saying? And this is coming from somebody with TI as an inferior function, by the way. When the ENTP has not developed their auxiliary function of TI, and they tend to allow their NE to run a little bit too wild, and then they start to contradict themselves a lot and come up with stupid philosophies. I want to give some examples that I've seen, but I feel like that won't be a good idea. But I'm sure that you'll understand them. You'll know the kind of examples that I'm talking about when you see them. And it's just like, okay, this can even come from healthy ENTPs. I'm just saying that, it's like, are you serious? Do you really, and they speak so confidently as if, they're right about certain things. And it's like, what? I thought that you were a thinker. How can you be so subjective? I don't know, man. No, but for real, it just baffles me, because I legit used to think that, having TI as a dominant or auxiliary function, that means that, you can't even help but not be so subjective about certain things. But TI is actually a lot more subjective than I thought that it was, and it just... Man, people need to work on that, especially if you have that as an auxiliary function. That needs to be worked on. Once again, coming from somebody who has TI as an inferior function, yet I'm still able to detect the inconsistency of logic with TI as an auxiliary. Goodness. Moving on. And lastly, we're going to talk about the INTP. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't think of a very creative name that would actually grasp just how I think that they're portrayed. Either that or I just didn't put enough time and effort into it. But what I do know is they are robotic. So whatever it is, it's the robotic blank. And I've considered things such as like the robotic servant, for example, because the thing about INTPs are they are awkward. See, I've met quite a few INTPs and I actually love INTP, but I've realized that FE being in the inferior function and especially having NE as an auxiliary function, these people are so weird because they are so factual because of their TI dominance, but then it comes to a point where they want to start, resonating a little bit more with their FE. And I know INTPs, I can actually count off 3 of them. I know INTPs who legit use social norms, or they kind of like, they're not fluid with their mannerisms and their social norms. It's kind of like the INTP will think to themselves in mid conversation or in mid interaction,
Oh, according to society, I must shake this person's hand. Hello, how are you doing today? Oh, that's great. Oh, I forgot to say please and thank you because according to society, according to my records, this is what people should do to be a human being.
I kid you not. That's literally how it seems like. And although that was slightly exaggerated, once again, it was slightly exaggerated. INTPs also tend to be know it alls. I know an INTP who literally, there's very few things that you can tell this INTP without her saying, I know. And it's like, do you really already know? Or do you now know because I've just told you? Which I guess technically is not really a lie. Because if somebody just presented you information and then you say, I know, you do know the information, but did you know it before they presented it? Don't know. But I think that it's some type of like arrogance that they also may have, which is possibly why INTPs and INTJs can sometimes, get mixed up because they both tend to have a sort of like arrogance behind them. And on top of all of that, because the INTP's FE is inferior, they don't tend to be very expressive. Like I said, they can be like a little bit, they can be stoic too as well. And because they're not like as expressive, they can also appear as the INTJ who appears stoic because their FI is introverted, like their introverted feeling is introverted, and it's tertiary as well. So INTPs, that is just something that so yes, INTPs can come off as know-it-alls, but they can also be very, very nitpicky. What I mean by this is that because of their dominant TI, they will literally pick apart every single word that you're saying, every single they scan everything that you're saying for like logical inconsistencies pretty much, and then they have to like pretty much go ahead with their know-it-all thing like, that's not right, or no, this is inaccurate, and they just like overread stuff. You do not want to hit an INTP with simple aphorisms and axioms because they will tear that apart. They will literally be like, I don't think that's accurate, or what exactly do you mean by this, or why did you use this word? And it's like, man, I didn't expect for you to read this deep into a 140 character tweet. Just, you understand what I'm trying to say. Like, everybody else understood what I was trying to say. Why are we making this more complicated than what it really is? And that is because the INTP wants to make things more complicated than it really is. I think it also has to do with their tertiary SI because SI can also be very nitpicky. And so when you have TI and SI in the same function stack, it's just like, yeah, I don't think that's right or whatever. Well, maybe not safe same function stack because if one of those are inferior, then you pretty much are safe. But yeah, TI, SI, not a good mix. Once again, due to their lack of FE, the INTPs tend to be unable to empathize with others. And this causes to be a problem oftentimes because once you come to them with your type of problem, whatever issue that you may be dealing with, then a lot of times, first of all, they don't even care. And then, second of all, if you are coming to them with like just a whole bunch of emotions, but you don't really have like a logical reason as to why you're upset or sad, depressed, whatever it is, then they're just like, so get over it. Like they literally cannot empathize with you because they think so rationally. But the crazy thing is, when things happen to them, then all of a sudden, almost like the ENTJ, it's like, oh my gosh, the whole world's falling apart. I'm being emotional. You guys better pay attention to me. And it's because the way they see it is like, I'm rarely emotional. I'm rarely like, acting off of emotion. So when I'm actually, one out of 100 times doing this, and it's definitely not that case all the time, especially with the ENTJ. But when I'm finally being emotional or like an emotional type of wreck, I expect for everyone to actually pay attention and cater to that, because unlike you other imbeciles who are always an emotional wreck, I am not usually an emotional wreck, so therefore I require attention whenever I actually am an emotional wreck. INTPs are also very absent-minded. Ironically, when I posted how much I like the INTP on Twitter, then I also pretty much said how the INTP is pretty much one of the hardest ones that I can come up with things that I do not really like about them, and a whole flood of INTPs came into my mentions and they started saying a whole bunch of reasons as to why the INTP is indeed, noteworthy or worthy of being, dragged, bashed, whatever the case may be. They can be very lazy. They're also very trivial. Like, they'll know a whole bunch of random facts about things that you didn't even ask for, that it's like, okay, but what are you actually going to do with this information? What is the point of knowing all of the little bumps that a basketball has on its outer surface? Or what is the point of like knowing like just random trivia facts? Like, are you planning on going on Jeopardy or something? Like, thanks, but no thanks. One INTP, INTpedia on Twitter, she told me a story pretty much about how her dishwasher, she put things in the dishwasher for, a certain amount of time, and I wish I could recall the whole story. It was too far back in my mentions and too far back in my screenshots to go and recollect. But she pretty much put a whole bunch of things in her dishwasher, and she went to go do something else, and she just totally forgot about everything that was in there, and I guess the dishwasher pretty much like exploded with bubbles or something all around the house. It was something along those lines, and the whole point of that story was that INTPs, they're just always thinking about like other things, and what comes to mind is Albert Einstein. Like, you could be like asking him a question or something, and then you're like, as you're like talking to him, like, do you even hear what I'm saying? And he's possibly thinking E equals MC squared T minus 4. Like, dude, where is your mind at? And I have an INTP roommate who you can like be talking or having a conversation, and the INTPs are not the type to eavesdrop on you, mainly because they're so busy like just in their own mind, thinking through things in their own mind, that once you even start calling their name, it's always like how when you wake up from those dreams and then it's like, Derek, Derek, Derek. It's like, huh? Because they're just always like in their own mind. They're just always thinking, and I think that's why TI, introverted thinking, just makes sense. Like in my ISTP video, Andy said TI, he defined it very vaguely, but he defined it like TI is pretty much thinking to yourself, and it's just like thinking to yourself. I guess that's pretty much like is the best I could, yeah. So I believe that's all I have to say about the NT types for today. The next video is going to be the SJs Low Key Suck, but yes, NTs, the rationals. As I believe, was it Kiersey who named them that? They are quite interesting, but nonetheless, we need them in life. We love them. They are awesome. This is like, we got Tony Stark, and then, we got Bill Gates out there. You know what I'm saying? We have, like I said, Huey Freeman. We also have Albert Einstein. We got a whole bunch of like great NTs out there, and I just think that it's noteworthy to listen to this video, and if you don't resonate with something, cool. But if you do, then try and make sure to like laugh about it, and then be like, okay, but I'm gonna work on that. And who knows, maybe you'll end up becoming a better person, or not. Anyway, I think I'm done for now, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I hope that it was worth the wait. Be sure to leave comments. Please don't get oversensitive in the comments. Like I said, it was just a joke. It's just constructive criticism. If you don't like it, then I'm sorry. That's kind of like what I do. I'm trying to get better with my TI. Telling the truth to people about how they are. So leave comments. Let's make this a laughable discussion. If you want to add anything on, then go ahead and do that. And I think I'm done talking now. Done.